And welcome back to another episode of Sitting Courtside, episode 80. Getting pretty close to 100. But of course, it's your boy Jerry D here, and as you can see, I got Tomer Azarly with me. For those of you who don't know, he covers the Clippers for Clutch Points with us, so good to have him back in the fold. Tomer, how we doing today, baby?
Doing great, Jerry. Thanks for having me. It's been a minute. For those of you who don't know, I am Tomer Azarly. I cover the LA Clippers for Clutch Points. I also do some general NBA coverage as well. I am in my ninth season covering the Clippers in the NBA. 10th
Veteran
working for Clutch Points. Yeah,
season.
I'm a veteran. Hey man, once you get close to double digits, you just start to feel old, man. You start to feel old. But I appreciate you having me. Jerry's a good buddy of mine. Hardworking guy, so it's good to be able to join my guy here.
Absolutely, man. For those of you who don't know, we did have a podcast once upon a time. If you're a real lifer, if you want to know about that, man, maybe we could talk about it over drinks off air or something like that. We could have a nice conversation. But
Oh,
we're
first
gonna
round's on you. Got it. Okay, cool.
we're gonna dive in right into your wheelhouse, talking about the Clippers, because obviously you guys have been probably one of the more hot teams in the league, especially over the last couple of weeks. But in a recent 5-game stretch, you guys are 4-1. Let me not say you guys because you're not the Clippers, but the team you cover is 4-1, and Kawhi Leonard is looking like the driving force for it. Last 5-game stretch here, 25.8 points, 7.8 boards, 3.6 assists, 2.4 steals, but the shooting splits is what's impressive though. 58% from the field to go along with 57% from deep. Like obviously, Kawhi is not a high volume 3-point shooter, but when he takes them, he makes them more than half of the time. So if you can just speak to what you're seeing, obviously your boots on the ground and in Intuit Dome in that building, covering the team
Yeah.
endlessly here. Just talk to me about what you've seen from the Clippers over these last 5-game stretch, and obviously what Kawhi has looked like in this recent stretch of games as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you followed Kawhi Leonard's career throughout the NBA, he's always been a very efficient, especially towards the end of his Spurs tenure and into his Clippers tenure. He's always been a very efficient, low wasted movement type of guy. He likes to get to his spots, get to his midi, get to his, little hook shot in the paint, and those are really his spots. He likes to catch and shoots as well in the wing. Um, but he doesn't waste many movements, and he's a guy who, I think you have to realize, like, even though we're at late March here in the season. Um, this is game 28, 29 for him. Like he's still, if he started the season, we'd be around Christmas time right now. So this is a guy who's still working his way back into shape after having an off-season procedure on his knee. Um, and he's just kind of rounding out into what he's been doing every year, which is being a very highly efficient guy when he's able to finally play his game and look like himself. I think I think to start the year, to start his return, I think in January against the Hawks, he looked like a guy who was just trying to find his way. And again, this is a Clippers team that was playing really well without him, led by James Harden, led by leading scorer Norman Powell at over 24 points a game, led by Ivica Zubac, who was getting double doubles pretty much nightly at this point.
Yep.
And so when you have three guys clicking on all cylinders and a team clicking on all cylinders like that. Sometimes it can take a little bit to incorporate a guy back like Kawhi and a guy who's trying to find his way and find his rhythm and play the style that he wants to play. So,
Yep.
but everyone knows what Kawhi Leonard is about. In order for this Clippers team to be as successful as they want to be and reach the mountaintop, Kawhi Leonard needs to look like Kawhi Leonard, and that's simply, if that's not the case, then they will not go far in the postseason. They need him
Yep.
to be him, and so. I think James Harden has done a great job carrying the torch in his absence. Norman Powell did as well. Same with Ivica Zubac. They both Norman and Zoo have kind of taken bigger roles this year with the departure of Paul George. And I mean the Clippers right now are they're kind of in the driver's seat for the 6th seed, but the Warriors kind of dealing with some injuries to Steph, and the Wolves have lost a couple of games here and there. So maybe driver's seat's a little strong, but. I think the Clippers lost all 3 games to the Wolves this year, but they're also 3-0 against the Warriors with one game between them on the final day of the year. So, um, Yeah, I think as long as they continue to trend upwards and play the way they want to play and defend at a high level, not turn the ball over, they'll be okay. But Kawhi's been great so far.
Yeah, no, that's why it's the point of emphasis here because I know the Clippers have obviously been playing great basketball over the span of the season, really, especially since most people probably had them penciled down low, like in the 8 to 10 range because of the injuries to Kawhi. Oh, we can't trust him, and James Harden is washed in the eyes of many. And how are they going to look without Paul George? They didn't get anything in return, and obviously they kept their head well above water because of this resurgent season, which is awarded by an All-Star appearance by James Harden, who's been playing probably like a top 5 to top 10 ish guard so far this season. Like there's an argument to be made for him and how well he's played. So it's great to see James obviously operating still at a high level and that he adds himself to that extraordinary list of these 34-year-old and up goats that we still have left in the games with Steph, Bron, and KD. Still playing crazy, but James Harden's name is obviously right there in the mix of things. But yeah, the most important thing definitely is Kawhi Leonard. Seeing how the last 4 years, speaking from personal experience, I've put money on Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers to get to reach an NBA Finals, to even potentially win one, probably one of those 4 years where it's been, obviously blown 3-1 leads or 3-2 leads and the bubble with Denver back then, or whatever the case may be. I've lost money by believing in Kawhi Leonard's health, by believing that Ty Lue's such a great coach who's a top 5 guy in my eyes at that job, to where I've been let down. So as we do get to the close here of the regular season with about 10 odd games so or left or whatever it is, that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm done betting on the Clippers because I've lost money. And I still don't know if I have confidence that Kawhi's body will hold up. I I hope it does. Kawhi's been one of my favorite players to watch when he's healthy. I think it's anybody's. You mentioned no wasted movements. That reminds me of these elite skilled players that we think about in the game today, like a Kyrie Irving, who has this tendency, even though he is one of the best ball handlers of all time, it's more so I'm gonna take 3 dribbles to get to where I need to be. If there's nothing there, I'll move around, get the ball back, or whatever it is. Like, no, KD, same thing. Doesn't have to lull you to sleep every possession. Can catch the ball off the block, take a hezzy pool, do whatever it is, and that's less than 4 to 5 dribbles. Like, Kawhi's the same type of way. Very much this robotic, for lack of a better term. Obviously, it fits Kawhi there, just being able to be surgical with his movements and everything. So I do hope the Clippers excel. And this is me speaking as a Laker fan. Like this, I do just like watching good basketball at the end of the day. And if the Clippers are in the postseason, it'll be a better postseason for it. So before we do round out this Clippers talk, I do want to ask, you talked about them being in the driver's seat for the 6 seed. Obviously it's kind of fluctuating from anywhere from 2 to 10. You lose 2 games in a row, all of a sudden you could be a 12 seed for all we know. But can you just tell me what you feel like is the best playoff matchup that the Clippers should want, the first team they should want to play out of all the teams that they're kind of clustered in the
Ooh,
West?
ooh. I mean, oddly enough, it might be like a Memphis or a Houston Rockets, just because you're kind of banking on a bit of inexperience there, or just some, they played the
Yeah,
Memphis Grizzlies very well this year, a team that they've matched up with well, and I think they have the size and the versatility to kind of handle. Ivica Zubac also has kind of had Jaren Jackson's number this year for whatever reason. So like, I don't want to say maybe driver's seat was a little strong. I think considering some of the opponents they have, like the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Orlando Magic, who have been playing well, like they have a bit of a tough schedule here. Like it's not going to be easy. But I
yeah,
think as long as they handle their own, um, and cap it off with a win against the Warriors at the end of the season, like we very much could see them avoid the play-in, and get that 6 seed, which would have them probably against like a Houston Rockets or a um, Memphis Grizzlies. It's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but it would be incredible if the first ever Lakers Clippers playoff matchup comes in a year where Luka gets traded to the Lakers, and the Clippers are in their inaugural season at Intuit Dome. It would be a true battle of LA in two separate home arenas, both in the same city. It would be absolutely incredible to be able to witness that. And honestly, we can't rule that out, because the Lakers have been kind of fluctuating with good and bad play as they kind of try to
yeah.
figure out the Reeves LeBron Luca trio, and then the Clippers are trying to get to that six seed. So, um, It's a very real possibility, and I actually would very much welcome that. I would want to see what that looks like. But again, maybe driver's seat's a little strong, but I think the Clippers, if they take care of what they need to take care of, including that final game of the year against the Golden State Warriors, they should be in really good position to take over that sixth seed and avoid the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I think I'll second that motion though. Just looking at the standings and whatnot, kind of looking at these teams that are just bunched into this from 2 to 8 or 2 to 9, not 2 to 8 more so, to where the Clippers did get the sixth seed and the season ends today. You'll end up playing the Denver Nuggets, which is like, whew, it's a little
That's
heavy.
a tough one. That's a tough one.
Gets a little scary there, but they also have basically the same record as the Grizzlies and the Lakers. So one win
But they
could be
also played. They also played the Clippers. The Denver Nuggets also played the Clippers three times without Kawhi this year. And so we haven't really seen Kawhi play against. And I think the game that he did play against them was like his second game back this season, in his first week back. So like again, Kawhi's a difference maker. If he can be back to where he needs to be, I'm not
yeah.
saying they'll beat Denver, but they sure will give Denver a run for their money. They look a little thin on the bench right now. So
When the ball is tipped off, obviously, especially in the postseason when the lights cut on, we've seen Kawhi step up in multiple postseasons already, including the one either last year or 2 years ago. You're the Clippers guy. You remind me when they played Phoenix, and I felt like, dude, they could actually beat. Okay, got you. They could have beat Phoenix in that series, and then Kawhi goes down to game two or whatever it was, and is shut down for the rest of the series. It's like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is insane. Like
I
Russell
mean,
Westbrook ended up being the best player in that series for the Clippers.
yeah, yeah, and I mean they even got two wins against the Mavs last year, went to the finals. Um, with Kawhi not being a part of either of those wins, they won Game One and they won Game Four, which were games that Kawhi did not play in.
Crazy.
James and James was Russ was phenomenal in Game One. James and PG were phenomenal in Game Four. So like, if Kawhi played that series, I mean,
Different ball
the
game.
Clippers probably could have won that series with if PG played up to his standard. If Kawhi was available, it might not even. I probably would have had the Clippers in six, but injuries are what they are. Mavericks advanced as far as they did. We could do the what if thing all day. I'm
Absolutely.
kind of on the same boat as what you mentioned is that, until the Clippers, the injuries are out of their control, but until they prove they can stay healthy and get a little lucky, truthfully,
Yeah.
um, they kind of just are what they are, which is a potential championship contender. We just got to see them healthy.
Yeah. We'll shout out to the Clippers, man. I am hoping the best because, again, love watching Kawhi work. This dude is, like I said, surgical. Still one of my favorite players today to watch. So, moving on from the Clippers situation, on to something probably a little more controversial, where I definitely know for sure you have a lot to say about it, as do I. But currently, right now, as of March 26, 2025, here, we're looking at Draymond Green being the favorite to win the Defensive Player of the Year award, currently minus 140. Evan Mobley is a close second at, let's see, plus 130 here. And then Dyson Daniels rounds out the top three at plus 1600. Just give me your thoughts about a 35-year-old Draymond Green, who would be the oldest to win it, by the way, if he does happen to do this. Like, what are your thoughts of Draymond leading this DPOY race? Given that we got about 10 games left in the season, but
Yeah.
a lot can happen. So how do you feel about Dre being at this spot right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, Draymond, I think, is a great individual and a great team defender. I just don't think the Warriors have been good enough for him or he hasn't done anything, spectacular individually for him to warrant that. I feel like it's a lot of just, betting odds and odds makers kind of, it's just maybe it's just how people are betting right now or what. But yeah, they're doing their job. So, um, look, I mean, Evan Mobley and the Cavs have like what almost 60 wins, and they're probably going to get about to 65 before the season's over.
Yep.
It's really hard to bet against him. I don't see how he's not the favorite right now. And Dyson Daniels, I know that he's been um, on a Hawks team that's kind of struggled, but what he's doing individually defensively with the steals and just the stocks, the steals and blocks, um, has been phenomenal. I'm not. I may be mistaken, but I think he has the most steals a player's had in a season since like 2008.
Yep.
Chris
Since
Paul or
Chris
something
Paul.
like that. And we still have another 10 games left where the Hawks are fighting for actual positioning. So they're not done yet. He's not done yet. He won't catch the all-time record, which I believe is Alvin Robertson. I looked it up. But he's still got a decent chance to climb up those charts as far as steals go. So, um, I mean, look, if you're going to give it to anyone, I think Evan Mobley probably deserves it because of his versatility. I know that he gets scored on, but defenders get scored on. That's part of the game. Um, and his interior defense and the Cavs just overall defense. But um, uh, to me personally, I probably would go Dyson Daniels and lead Dyson Daniels just because of his overall steals number and the sheer once he got free of the Pelicans, because he had a little bit of playing opportunity with the Pelicans, not much, but once he was paired up with Trae Young and he just made for a solid backcourt defender. Not just solid, he's been an incredible defender this year.
Yeah.
And so I really think he deserves his credit um, for, I think, again, I think there's some weird numbers there where maybe the Hawks, their defensive rating isn't as great when he's out there versus when he's off, but like you can't contest or dispute the sheer steals and blocks numbers,
Yeah.
and his individual defensive impact. So Dyson would be my favorite. Again, Draymond is a great individual defender, great team defender, but I personally just don't see it this year for him. And it's not a slight to him. I think he's been one of the best defenders of this generation. But I just don't see it this season for me.
Yeah, no, like, hey, man, you get no argument from me. I'm also very supportive of what Draymond has meant, I think, to the game of basketball as an all-time defender. And I put him up there in that conversation where he definitely has a seat at the table for me with the Dennis Rodmans of the world, where you can guard virtually 1 through 5 in the prime of your career. Like, you have a solid shot of like being that guy. I respect Draymond, but just like you said, the numbers aren't there for the Warriors as a team. Not even just looking at like where they're at in the standings, obviously, like where they're sitting at this 6th spot right now, but just from a defensive efficiency standpoint, I just like looked it up. Like your team isn't like elevated into the top 5, even like they're number 8, which our guy, like I'd also probably would think Devin Mobley would win it. The Cavs are at number 7 for the defensive efficiency ratings as they stand right now at the time that we're recording this. But I don't know, like I think it's more of the name value to where Draymond, oh, this is what he means to the Warriors defensively. This is why he should win it. There's definitely a case to be made for him. I'm not taking anything away, but it definitely seems more like it's Evan Mobley's award to lose, or at least it should be, given the fact that the Cavs are this good. Again, they're only 1 slot ahead of Golden State in efficiency, but they still have Jared Allen. They still have Isaac Okoro whenever he checks back into the game. So maybe that could take away from some of his case to where Draymond is, and now obviously Jimmy Butler being there, but Draymond is the sole defender where people's like, this is still the guy that's barking out orders on that end of the floor, calling out switches, calling out certain plays that the offensive team might be making. So I give him his credit, but yeah, Dyson Daniels, obviously, I think you've seen it. I talked to him whenever he was in Charlotte and just kind of getting to pick his brain a little bit defensively and watching film on guys like Marcus Smart in his DPOY season. And obviously, he watches a lot of Oklahoma City basketball where they fly around and wreak havoc, turnovers, and all that throughout the passing lanes. And I just think personally, like I seen a comment that Draymond made about where Dyson doing it with the steals, but he's not blocking shots, to where I honestly think steals have a solid shot to be probably a little more valuable because steals are turnovers. Essentially, that ruins a possession. We don't even get a shot on the rim at that point as an offensive team, to where if I miss it, maybe an offensive rebound happens, or maybe it goes off of the opposing player and we keep the possession. Steals cancel out a possession. It's just over altogether. And that leads to, obviously, as you know, fast break points, easier baskets, transition baskets. Dyson is literally turning Atlanta into more of a happy run first offense, which probably for most young teams is a good thing. That allowed Richard Say to kind of open up his game a little bit. Trae Young could just kind of, all right, I can take this possession off because I don't have to run back down the floor now. Here comes Dyson with the steal. Like, Dyson, I agree with you. That should be the guy I think that does win it, because you said we haven't seen it. So you brought up the stat with the Chris Paul since 2008. I looked it up. Since 2000, the only person that's going to probably have more steals than him is going to be Allen Iverson. So it's kind of like, I think it's at 225 or whatever it is. And Dyson still has, again, you mentioned it, 10 odd so games left to where he could rack up. We've seen him get 5 steals in a game routinely. So anything's possible. I
Yeah,
like Dyson for it as well, but it looks like Draymond's name is going to carry the weight to his second DPOY here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think everyone in a way kind of has a case and a case against them.
Yeah,
Again, like the Warriors would not be anywhere near where they are without Draymond playing defensively. Like they're not
absolutely.
a good defensive team without him. So that's you know set the record straight on that. And then like you mentioned Jared Allen and some of the other defenders in Cleveland. It's more of a team defense, I think. But Evan Mobley certainly contributed with his versatility. And then the Hawks are standing wise, they're not great. Um, the real case for Dyson Daniels really is just individual defensive prowess, his steals, his
Yeah,
blocks numbers, the igniting of live ball turnovers and igniting fast breaks. So yeah, I mean you touched on a lot of it there too. So um, we'll see. I'm very interested to see who wins that. I don't think betting odds usually reflect exactly how the voters will vote.
no,
But I think it's somewhat interesting that Draymond has climbed to the top considering where the Warriors are in the standings and his numbers aren't exactly there defensively, like the
yeah,
steals and blocks numbers. So, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. Draymond does have the most stocks in March, which is like, I guess, something to throw out. It's pretty impressive what he's doing at this advanced age. Obviously, we're not taking anything away from him. He's still an elite defensive player. It is just a little shocking still to see him, I guess, performing at this level, but we'll see how things shake out, I guess.
he's not going to be happy to see that you call them advanced age.
Hey, hey, I add him to this same crop on the defensive side of the ball. Advanced age is a good thing in today's. LeBron is 40 and he's still a top 5 player in my mind. And LeBron's 40. Like advanced age, older, more seasoned, mature, whatever he wants. Please don't bark at me. you you're great.
I will say you brought up some good points. He has a game with 5 blocks and 3 steals. He has a game with 4 blocks and 2 steals. A game with 4 steals. Um, so he's had a solid defensive, statistical
Well,
defensive march here. So definitely noteworthy, to
it's
say
a
the
good home
least.
stretch for a guy that's trying to make his case, his last minute push. This is what I
Yeah.
did in March. What the rest of the guys do. Leave it up to the voters. Yeah, jumping on to our next thing here, transitioning from, Draymond potentially barking at me for that comment. But Damian Lillard obviously out for the season, out indefinitely, where with the blood clot in his calf, was the questions just pop up now, like what's next for the Bucks? Can they keep their head above water? Can they still compete in the postseason? Because we're expecting them to at least make a better run than what they did last year, where basically the entire roster is out. Just your reaction to this news and what it means for the Bucks season moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a scary situation. Anytime you have blood clots and something as serious as that is medically. And I think you have to remember, like these are abnormally taller people, and they're more susceptible to these type of things, and they spend a lot of time sitting down on planes and sitting down on the bench, and even though they move a lot, they also spend a lot of time sitting on
Yeah,
planes and hotel rooms and everything. So, um, I mean, at this point, this is a guy with multiple, with kids and a family, so um, just that's number one priority. There's no basketball even uh, in front of mind. Like obviously, you want to be available for the Bucks, but you just got to focus on your own well-being and your own health and your own life. I think it, it's bigger than basketball at this point. Like anytime you have something like this that could seriously endanger yourself, you just got to put basketball second and take care of yourself first. And if that means being
yeah,
out for the year. I don't think he's been ruled out for the year or anything like that. I don't want to say that, but for as long as he needs to be out, he should be out. He should take all the precautions and make sure that he's good to go for when he's actually able to come back. So tough loss for the Bucks. They definitely needed Dame for the stretch run here as they look to begin the playoffs. We're about 3 weeks away, so could definitely use him. They've struggled of late, um, but not even not even a
yeah,
decision at that point. You got to take care of yourself and your family.
yeah. No, absolutely. Definitely not even thinking about too much what that means more than so like what it means for his actual life and health and well being. So shout out to Dame, man. Hopefully, speedy recovery here. Same thing happened to Wimby, just in his shoulder earlier this season. Kind of similar condition. So just want the both of them to be good. And then we'll see what the basketball of it all looks like later. So it's one
Yeah,
topic. We'll move. Oh,
yeah,
go.
it's just not uncommon. I think we saw um, I believe it was Asar Thompson on the Pistons had something similar last year that kind of caused him to miss the beginning of his rookie year. We all know about Chris Bosh and all that, so
Yeah,
um,
it's
it's
weird.
unfortunately not uncommon. You just have to, take the necessary precautions and stay a step ahead of it, and you can hopefully be okay. But yeah, prayers out to Dame and his family. That's a scary situation, and glad they caught that when they did.
Absolutely, absolutely. But moving on to more depressing news, but more happy because at least it's about basketball and not a man's health. And for Jimmy Butler, returns to Miami, but took an L. Where obviously the Warriors, I believe they only lost 3 games with Jimmy Butler in the starting lineup. So still not the end of the world for them. Obviously, they're sitting at the 6th spot, like you mentioned earlier, tussling and fighting to hold on to it with the Clippers breathing down their necks, the Timberwolves and whatnot. But how are we feeling about the Warriors heading into this postseason and kind of the fit with Jimmy and Steph and Draymond, obviously?
First of all, the Heat looked like a team that took that matchup personally.
Oh,
They
they
were not about to lose to Jimmy in his return. I don't think Jimmy said. I don't think he really embraced. I only saw him embrace Kevin Love before the game, maybe Bam and someone else. I don't. Didn't really see him embrace too many people on the Heat side. So um,
yeah,
there was definitely a personal um, want to beat him. Um, but no, I mean, I think look, I think the biggest thing with Jimmy is I think the Warriors need someone who can spell Steph for a bit. Like I think Steph has been phenomenal this year, and
it's the problem.
I just think Jimmy just likes to play and get his guys involved and likes to play through their system and make sure everyone touches the rock and everyone gets a good look. And I think sometimes Jimmy just needs to be Jimmy and go get a bucket, go get to the free throw line. I think the Warriors need a little bit more of that. I don't think we've seen that as much.
No,
I think he's done it in spurts and he's done it well, not just there, but throughout his career. Um, but especially on a team like this where Steph commands so much attention and the ball will hop easily. I think Jimmy's a great fit, and I think it's great to see him there. But I think he needs to take a bit more of an offensive, scoring role for them, just to keep defenses honest and make sure that everyone's being respected, including himself as a scorer. But Jimmy,
yeah,
we know what he is. When he gets to the playoffs, he's a different animal. I'm sure that'll be the same thing. That'll be the case come this April when the Warriors are in the play-in or top 6 seed, whatever. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think he's brought a different edge to them. I think he's also in a weird way kind of pushed Draymond as well because he's one of those nasty trash talking type of guys. We saw a video of them playing dominoes the other day and going crazy
yeah.
together. So they're kind of a match made in heaven. Those two. They're both kind of crazy kind of psychos on the basketball court. And I think they'll bring the best out of each other. I just think Jimmy needs to be a bit more of an offensive weapon to spell Steph, especially in these games where he's not able to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree too. Like Warriors came to Charlotte. That's one of the questions I asked Steve Kerr just about implementing Jimmy Butler into the system. Like, how's that been? And even I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but even he admitted just, I think we need to get him more involved as a scorer. To where obviously Jimmy's game, like you already broke it down, he's definitely more so looking to get guys involved. And then maybe in the bulk of the fourth quarter, and when clutch time officially begins, that under 4 minute mark, all right, team only has a 2 point lead or we're down by 4 or 6 or whatever it is. They need me to make a run. So and then everything kind of revolves around him, the gravity that Jimmy creates, and he goes back to playmaking and does his thing. So that's definitely going to be the key to the Warriors, especially I think not having they never really had a dominant low post defender ever, and there's not a lot of teams that actually feature a primary big out west that can just you can dump the ball down to and just go get a bucket. Nah, that's not really a thing. So they should be fine, but their inside defense still gets punished from time to time. And Quentin Post gets put in pick and roll situations, and I'm like, yo, this dude's on no man's land. So some of those things could be issues. But again, having Jimmy and Draymond, like you mentioned, two bulldogs, two psycho competitors, I wouldn't want to play this team in a 7 game series. Especially, I didn't even mention the babyface assassin in the background just lurking and just mouth guard out, looking like, yeah, I'm a junkyard dog too, but I just do it in a more, effortless way. So interested to see what the Warriors do this postseason for sure. Should be
Yeah,
fun.
and I think they have a lot to incorporate too. And Jonathan Kaminga coming back from injury. Moses
Yeah.
Moody's been making some starts for them. You mentioned Post's threat. Quentin Post has been fantastic as a 3 point shooter and floor spacing
Yeah.
big for them. He's been really good. And so, I'm curious to see if they can develop that and what they can kind of find there because they have an interestingly kind of unique team. So I'm curious to see what
Yep.
they look like.
Yeah. Absolutely. But to kind of cap us off here, the last little news headline, not really so much about basketball, but pretty important, I think, for basketball. LeBron is relaunching the Mind the Game podcast. The one that he once ran with his now head coach and JJ Redick, and he's replacing one all-time great NBA white boy with probably one of the greatest all-time great NBA white boys and Steve Nash. Like, hey, two-time MVP, multi-time All-Star, this Hall of Famer. I can't speak more highly of Steve Nash other than the fact that he stole an MVP from Shaq and Kobe. But Steve Nash is still the man, probably a even better mind to throw in, over JJ to have a point guard that played with elite players pretty much all his career. It's crazy to see Steve Nash just, I guess, in a podcast scene. And I see in one of the shorts clips where, hey, LeBron saying, hey, if Steve Nash gets a head coaching job, I had nothing to do with it. But, I think before I do give you the floor, I want to ask this question first. Like, one, it'd be hilarious if he did get Steve Nash a job, but do you think LeBron is kind of creating this little factory now? It's like a platform for coaches and coaches' material to come on, prove your X's and O's, show what you can do. Not that we didn't know already, but now it's like more public. Then the question will be, why doesn't Steve Nash have a job? This dude is doing this and that with LeBron. He's breaking down floppy. He's talking about horns. Like, do you think this could land Steve Nash another coaching job? Is this a good thing to put on his resume here?
I mean, I think if Steve wanted another one, he probably could try and pursue one as an assistant or something. I mean, look, I think it's great to see that the pod is back because I think the future was kind of up in the air once
JJ.
JJ was named head coach, and he obviously had to quit podcasting and everything. So,
Yeah.
no, I mean, Steve Nash is a great basketball mind. I think there's no question about that. I think he was probably thrust into a head coaching role a little too soon and with a team that was kind of expected to win right away. And everyone's coaching journey is a little different. So, I'm not going to, it wasn't great for him, but I'm not going to fault him too much. It was kind of a strange time for him. But yeah, I mean, a great basketball mind, a great floor reader, and a true point guard who played an ultra efficient style too. I mean, he was efficient as a shooter. He was probably one of the best free throw shooters of all time until Steph came around, if not the best. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm very curious to hear from Steve Nash, and I think he's a guy who kind of disappeared over the last couple of years. Like we haven't really heard from him. I think he may have been working behind the scenes with like Canada basketball. He may have been, but a guy that we haven't really heard from or seen from over the last couple of years. So very curious to see how that works, and even if he doesn't get him a head coaching job, just to get another player-driven podcast where we get to hear from the guys who are inside the game and how they do and see different things, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, like that's the most, I guess, interesting part to me, getting to see Steve Nash back, like just in a public spotlight. Because, like you said, he definitely fell off the map. That Brooklyn experience was just a shit show. Like I can't really put it lightly. I can't really describe it any kind of way. After Kenny Atkinson got the boot because of the KD and Kyrie experience, was now a part of Brooklyn. Steve Nash gets thrusted into a role to probably coach two of the more, I guess, I don't want to say problematic, but let's say complicated personalities in our current NBA history, just in KD and Kyrie. And you throw James Harden in the mix, it doesn't really make your job easier. Young head coaches or first-year head coaches should definitely take, maybe more jobs where you have more leeway to fail. I'm thinking Orlando getting Jamal Mosley and letting him have the wiggle room to fall on his face because eventually I'll pick myself up. GMs draft correctly, get the coach who I need to coach, yada, yada, yada. Superstar personalities are hard to dominate. JJ Redick has obviously done a great job in year one. The Lakers looks like they're playoff bound. How deep they go is, TBD, but most head coaches, like you said, everybody has a different route. Steve Nash got the short end of the stick there. So glad to just see him back talking about basketball in whatever kind of capacity he could do it in. So this should be dope.
Yeah. I think he was also. I don't really think I may have been wrong, but I don't think he was an assistant coach to the Warriors. I feel like he was more of a player development type of guy, or he worked with Kevin Durant pretty often. So like, I don't think it was really just that like assistant coach too much. But obviously he's got a great basketball mind. So, Yeah, I mean, I think again, a team that you can kind of work through and grow and learn. Coaching is not for everyone, so some
Yeah,
people it takes the learning curve is a little bit bigger than others. So yeah, excited to see the pod's back. It's going to be should be a fun show to break down and be able to watch two of the best basketball minds in the world. So
absolutely. And that's it for the rundown. So we'll close that off. But before we go, for the signature end of this podcast show, any parting shots from you, from what you've seen from the NBA world, the sports world in general? Give me something. What you got?
parting shots. Ooh, that's tough. Um, I'm gonna say. I think we need to reevaluate the play-in tournament. Um,
Hmm.
I think during the COVID season, when there were 4 games fewer played, uh, sorry, 10 games fewer played, there were some teams who, um, you know, they had a chance to make it if they were within 4 games or a certain amount of games. Um, like if you look at the East right now, like some of the teams that are behind are like 8 games under, 7 games under 500, whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
Um, I know Chicago's played well of late, but I think maybe we need to look at, and I know it's a money play, and I know they want to be able to benefit financially and have a week of high stakes, win and go home games, but maybe just to reevaluate if teams that you play 82 games for a reason, like it would suck to play 82, and because a team was 1 game behind you, and we all know in a 1 game situation, anything can happen. Um, a lot of those are dependent on matchups. A lot of those dependent on maybe who's healthy at that point. So, maybe just reevaluate and see if it makes sense to have a play-in tournament if teams are too far below or a team is too far ahead or
I
something
got
like
you.
that. Just something like that, I guess you could say. Maybe not a parting shot, but parting thoughts, I guess you could say.
Hey, parting shots, parting thoughts, man. It's all in the cup. But mine would pers- mine would personally be honestly, I see everybody kind of, itching to scratch and to talk trash about, oh well, NIL's ruining college basketball. These Patriot League schools or these lower seeded schools or mid majors don't have a chance to play. I don't give a damn about any of that. Honestly, I love NIL because it gives college basketball an NBA feel. And yeah, the Cinderella is essentially dead to some degree because even though the 10 seeded Arkansas Razorbacks are a 10 seed, like it's Coach Cal, it's John Calipari. Like that's not really a 10 seed team. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I like the fact that players now mid majors could go to I don't know a Bryant or UMBC, have a great individual season in their respective like Patriot League conference or wherever they're playing, average 16 points a game. They can hit the transfer portal and they can end up in Kentucky. That's kind of cool to me. Like, like yeah, I get it. People watch March Madness for the upsets and whatnot, and they probably tune in when March starts immediately to see these games. But personally, I think it's better for college basketball in some senses to have these guys continue to make money because that's what they're doing, and that's why they're going to bigger programs because it's a more lucrative NIL deal. So if you don't like it, you don't like kids making more, or young adults, 18 to 22-year-olds, whatever they are, making money and getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. I think it's amazing. So the rest of y'all can just kiss my ass because it's kind of dumb to argue against.
100% agree. These are professional athletes that were
Like a
being,
G League.
yeah, these guys were being. I don't want to say used, but it was exploitation in a way, and I'm glad they're getting paid,
Absolutely.
especially given the amount of money the NCAA brings in. So
I appreciate the support here. But, you know, guys, that's it from us today. Hey, you guys make sure if you're not already, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that little bell. Why not? If you don't follow us on any of the other social media platforms like Twitter, like Instagram, like TikTok, you should go give that stuff a follow too. I know that we are a little bit of a hiatus here. We're trying to figure some things out with this Sitting Courtside channel since Dante's departure did kind of move some things around. So got a lot to figure out, but we got Tomir here today. Hopefully he's back for the weeks to come, but I'll also try to shuffle in some other people as well to keep things fresh, spice things up. But give us a 5-star rating on audio only platforms as well. Forgot that. That's another plug. But until next time, peace.